everything except the thing that you can't have. Take my cash and wine. Don't take this thing of mine.
I'm here at Iris Coffee Company in Pella, and we're here with the owner, Elizabeth Dierking. Elizabeth, how are you doing today?
Great, and yourself?
Doing really well. Thanks for being part of this with us.
Totally.
Yeah, this is an awesome spot, as you can tell. Like, it's not my normal man cave, but we've got some really cool coffee roasting equipment behind us. But tell me, what is Iris Coffee Company? Because it's not just a normal coffee shop. It sounds like you do classes here as well.
For sure, yeah. The whole kind of hope with creating the business was we would create a space where community could happen. And so community happens in a lot of ways here. We have like a kids play area in the back, so lots of parents come, hang out with the kids play, do education classes, oftentimes from the schools actually. So we've had preschool all the way to high school come in and do a class, and we have different tailored events for each of those. We also have done corporate events. So there's a lot of community that happens here based around just having a space and a lot of people to come in. So, yep.
That's awesome, and I think Pella is the perfect spot for that, because as Tyler and I were driving down, we're like, it's not quite a big town, but it's not quite a small town, because like, they've got two high schools. They've got the Christian school and then the high school, but then they've also got that small town feel, and then like Tulip Time, obviously. If you don't know what Tulip Time is, check it out. What is it about Pella that brought you here?
Yeah, so I grew up here, moved away for 10 years, and happened to end up back here. And so when we were here, I was a stay-at-home mom, and so we started roasting. So I'd roast at night. So kind of my tagline when we started was I'm mom by day, roaster by night. And so started dreaming about what it looked like to develop this business into a way where we could invite other moms in, actually, in particular. So all of our hours are based around school hours. Moms are welcome to bring their kids with them to work if they want to. Very flexible, and so yeah, that's kind of how we started that.
Awesome. Yeah, I loved walking in and seeing that little kids area in the background. I think that's such a cool thing, and the idea of creating community, creating a space where community happens. You've got some experience in the coffee industry. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I've been in the industry for about 10 years. I would say the dream happened in high school, actually, my junior year of high school. I started dreaming about what would it look like to run a coffee shop someday. Then moved overseas for a while, and while we were there, I realized my three passions of science, business, and community all intersected at coffee. And so what would it look like to create a business that kind of highlights those three things and continues to develop that? And so after moving back from overseas, I started working at a coffee shop, figured out how to like to drink coffee, because at that point I was not a coffee drinker. And then just kind of dove head into the science behind it. I opened up a shop for a nonprofit down in Ottumwa. And then after a couple of years, moved back here and started roasting for myself, and then Iris kind of just happened.
Yeah. What is it about coffee in particular? Why coffee? Why not tea? Why not a brewery? What is it about coffee?
Yeah. That's a great question. I don't know. I love science, and coffee is so manipulative. So if you don't like the flavor of bitterness, you can extract coffee in different ways to not enhance the bitter flavor. If you, so basically temperature extracts different notes, agitation extracts different notes, what you're using for like your liquids, whether you're brewing it with water or whatever, they all extract different notes. And so we kind of wanted to go with this idea of what would it look like to serve coffee in a way that nobody else in town is doing, because at that point we were roasting for several shops in town. And so we didn't want to compete with them. So we told them, we're going to open a shop, but we will never have a vanilla latte on our menu, because that's not being unique and creative and discovering new things. And so you'll look at our menu and be like, this is not a traditional menu. How do I order here? So we tell people we are trying to be like a cocktail bar, but for coffee.
Interesting.
And so everything, for the most part, is very experimental, really unique. So we started with science and flavor, and we developed it from there.
I like that idea of the science of flavor. And I like the idea of creating a coffee shop as an experience rather than just a transactional place.
Yep.
Because so many coffee shops you go in, so many corporate coffee shops you go in, you get your vanilla skinny non-fat latte with everything added to it, and you walk out, you don't know the barista's name, you don't know, you might know their name because you're there so often,
Sure.
but you don't actually spend any time creating that community.
Yep.
And I think that's so important with what you're doing is you're creating a coffee shop that not just talks about the story of coffee in so many different ways. I've made my coffee with my Chemex multiple different times, and it's amazing the size of the grind,
Yep.
how much that changes it, whether it's more bitter or more acidic. And as you saw on our social media and as you saw in the intro video, they've got a big graphic on the wall here that's got different flavor notes of
Sure.
coffee. And it's so weird to think that coffee, when it comes in this little bean, it's this little green bean which is inside a fruit, that it produces so many different flavors based on region and brewing temperature. And I love the idea of what you're doing with teaching people about
Yeah,
that.
for sure.
So many people would just be so content to say, this is what it is,
Yep.
this is what you get. You talked a little bit about living overseas. I know that your husband brought you a coffee roaster, and you talked about a siphon coffee brewer.
Yeah.
Is that kind of what got you into this? Or?
Yeah, so we were living in Cambodia at the time, and we went to the secondhand Japanese store. So Japan is notoriously known for like their hand-blown glass work, especially in the coffee industry. So that's like some of the highest standards of production of equipment. And so in my broken Khmer and this lady's broken English, I figured out that this bong-looking thing was a coffee brewer. And it was like so ancient. Like I had found this like this random treasure in this back of this dark building. And so I opened it up and the box is like old and brittle. And I pull it out and like the filter still smells like it's been in some old Japanese man's like house for years and years, right? Like all those flavors are still captured in this cloth filter. And so I was like, this is crazy. If you can use this device to brew coffee, that's way cooler than a French press. And so it kind of got me into this thinking of like, what is a theatrical presentation of coffee? How do you make it an experience and less of just like something you drink? And so, yeah, that's kind of where it all started.
A theatrical experience when it comes to coffee.
Yeah.
It's true though, like that siphon coffee filter, and we'll make sure to post a picture of it because it's a really cool looking
For sure.
device.
Yeah.
It does look like a bong though.
Yes.
It definitely does.
For sure.
But that's so cool. So we talked a little bit about creating a community. What is it about being in Pella that fosters that community feel for you?
Yeah. Pella's a really unique demographic.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people are transplants here working for the headquarters, the international headquarters here we have in town. And so they often have experienced a city experience and they are craving that. And so the more that we as a community can provide that, the better of an experience it is for those people, as well as we have so many tourists that come to town. And so, yeah, what does it look like to create an experience where people's jaws end up on the table because of what you're serving them? We kind of have this theory of if you can incorporate 3 of the different flavor profiles of that sweet, sour, bitter, savory, the person's mind becomes so confused about what's happening that they have to go back for another sip. And so some of our drinks use fire. We try to incorporate as much theatrical experience and flavor experience so that they are reminded about what they had here and want to come back because of that.
It's a really, really interesting way to look at it. And it's crazy to me that this town has so many tourists.
All the time.
It's a small town in the middle of nowhere.
Yep.
But it's got all these beautiful old buildings, these old brick buildings, and the beautiful town square with the bells. And I mean, there's a saying here: if you're not Dutch, you're not much. You ain't Dutch, you ain't much. But there's also a feeling of welcoming.
Yep.
And it sounds like that's something that you want to create within your coffee shop as
For
well.
sure. Yep.
So tell me a little bit about the process of opening a coffee shop.
Yeah.
You told me that you moved into this location in 2022, at the end of last year. What was it like starting a coffee shop after being out of the States for 10 years? I can't imagine that was easy to acclimate to.
Yeah, for sure. So I had the privilege of starting another shop before this one. So I always say, like, I'm thankful that I got to learn on somebody else's dime, right? Like, take all the things that you enjoy, take all the things that you didn't enjoy, and like make something that you do enjoy. And so we did a 6-month test period of like, what does it look like to have a roastery in town? There used to be a roaster, and they had since stopped. And so we knew there was a demand, and so we went and talked with them, did some market research, and then started basically a production facility in our garage. We had it all licensed, and we just decided for 6 months we were going to test this thing. If it had merit, we would pursue it more, and if it didn't, whatever, we tried. And it had merit, and so they're like, all right, what's next? And we had some strict boundaries. I had a brand new baby at the time, and so I didn't want to be working a full bar. I had just got done doing that. And so we had this timeline of between 2018 and when our last kid went to school, we wouldn't have a bar, but we would basically just like roast whenever we could and deliver it to people. And so we just created this system of roasting and delivering, both locally and across the US. And so we actually rented out across the street, there's a loft. And we rented out a loft inside a bike shop, and it was a really cool space. Sometimes I'm like, oh, why didn't we leave that space? It was so cool. We wanted it to be this treasure hunt. So you had to find us essentially, and if you found us, we were like your prize. And so you would like walk through the back of the bike shop, up this spiral staircase into this loft that had a full glass wall that overlooked the mechanics bike area. And in the back was the roastery. It was just like 200 square foot, so super intimate. People would come in and just hang out for hours. And we didn't have like an espresso machine. It was just beans, roasting, and then free samples of coffee. If you wanted to buy beans, great. If you wanted to buy a cup of black coffee, awesome. And it just really allowed us to test the market. What were people looking for? Who were the people that were making the trek all the way up the stairs to find us? And to really narrow down that demographic in order to be able to create this space here.
It sounds like there was a lot of experimentation in your own business, as well as you talked about experimenting here with different styles of coffee. It sounds like you implemented that in your own business as well, in figuring out, basically doing market research. What do people like? What are people liking? Did you do any sort of classes to learn how to roast coffee? I know that I've seen coffee roasting classes, I've seen barista classes. Like, did you do any of that, or did you just kind of wing it and say, screw it, I'm going to do it myself?
Yeah, great question. As far as market research goes, COVID was like the best thing that could have happened to us. Every other shop shut down. We had already had the delivery implementation, process in order. And so we started doing drink deliveries.
So tell me a little bit about that first.
Yeah, so it was really cool. So again, we were roasting for everybody. Everybody shuts down. We now have nothing to do. So I was like, this is sweet. What can we do? And so being in Asia, they have cup sealing machines for their bubble teas. Let's just buy a cup sealing machine. So we would send out a mass email, get 50 to 100 orders, and then just fulfill all those orders, throw them in a cooler, and then drive around town on a Saturday morning and Wednesday mornings and just deliver drinks. The whole idea was, what would it look like to bring these cups of joy, or this pocket of joy in the midst of such a sucky time? And so it was super fun just to there's kids all playing in the yard and just here moms, here's your coffee, go have fun. So our tagline is, for every adventure, live a story worth telling. And so this whole idea of, there's these snapshots, which is where iris comes from, the iris of the camera. There's these snapshots within our lives, within everyday life. And how do you capture that in a way that you want to tell somebody? If somebody were to find your story in a book in 100 years, would they want to read it? And so creating those moments of, here's some caffeine so you can go to the park with your family, or here's some caffeine so you can climb the mountain. And so everything in our shop is very adventure themed. But yeah, back to the training stuff. I had done training at Messenger Coffee. I don't know if you're familiar with them in Kansas City for the other shop that I opened before they were even like a thing. They were just like in the tiny strip mall in Kansas. And then for roasting, we did a roasting class after we started. But yeah, a lot of it self-taught and
Just kind of winging it.
experimenting, right? Like that's our whole idea.
One of the things that I do want to ask you is, I noticed that you and your husband are the owners of this, and I just got to be curious, what's it like creating that work-life balance when you own a company together?
My poor husband.
Chase, we're sorry you're not here.
Oh,
Casey,
man.
sorry, Casey, not Chase. I don't know why I said Chase.
I always tell him it's his fault. He's the one that bought the roaster. So he actually he works a full-time job, and so he gets pulled in a lot in the evenings, but we have an awesome team, and super thankful that I don't have to bring everything home if I don't want to. Everybody knows what they're good at, and they just zone in and do that thing, and we give them a lot of opportunity to do what they want. And so they have an idea, we just let them run with it. As far as like products go, he gets pulled in a lot. He likes to do like some fine woodworking stuff, so we have smoke tops that are all custom made for us, and
cool.
recipe decks that we make.
So he's kind of the handyman, not the main face, but he's here when he needs to be.
Yes.
Awesome.
He keeps us moving forward.
I'm assuming that the 10 years you spent overseas in Cambodia as missionaries, I'm assuming that working together in that sense kind of helped strengthen the bond for when you did eventually open up a coffee shop together.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So we'd actually spend there for 10 years. We were just there for 2 years.
Gotcha.
But yeah, we got married and 2 months later moved overseas.
Oh, wow.
So before that we were in China, and so we were dating. And so basically our entire first 3 years together were all overseas. So it's created a lot of really fun traditions for our family that were created when we were there, right? And so I just got back actually from visiting there, and it's really fun just to bring the knowledge that we've learned here over there. So when we were there, we just kept saying, I wish we had a skill to offer to these people that were hungry to learn. And so coming back, starting a business, now there's 3 or 4 coffee shops in the organization that we were working with. And so I just got back from doing a whole experimental training with them, teaching them how to make different kind of oleo syrups and more of the bartending side of it, using coffee though. And so there's a lot of really fun things you can do with fresh fruit, which is super available for them. Whereas a vanilla syrup is not easily accessible. And so how do you teach people to think about the ingredients they have and how they can manipulate it to use it in a drink instead of only thinking about chocolate, caramel, and vanilla? And so,
I like what you're saying with that. And it goes back to creating a space where community happens and creating a community and tapping into that community where you are and how different that looks in different countries, not just in terms of the cultures, but also the ingredients that you have. And
sure.
I think that's one thing that's so important is the need to get outside of your comfort zone and get outside of your community. I mean, I can't imagine it was comfortable for you to move outside of the country.
Yeah. Not at all, but also so fun, right?
Right.
For every adventure. I think that hits really deep in our family's DNA. What does it look like to live an adventure? You got one life to live. Why not live it to the edges instead of inside the bubble? So.
Well, and it sounds like you're creating an adventure where you are here.
Exactly.
What sort of extracurriculars does Iris Coffee Company offer?
Yeah, great question. We have a lot of fun stuff coming.
Awesome. Stay tuned.
Yeah, we're hoping, so along with this Every Adventure theme, we just did a whole rebrand, and so we're really excited to start rolling out. We're going to start giving away trips. What does it look like to offer free trips to families so that they can get away and adventure with their kids, or, it doesn't have to be a family. So we want to give away actually maybe a trip overseas. Wow. So a lot of this, how can we provide this joyful thing just out of hey, we just want to bless you. and not anything in return. So that's kind of something we're working on. As far as like classes, we're going to start doing more tasting events, education stuff for the community, just on a regular basis. Come in, sample all of our coffees, enjoy that. Our bar is actually functioned in a way where it feels like you're a part of the experience instead of a barista behind the espresso machine. And that's for a reason. You feel like you're standing inside the bar with our staff. Everything is very thought through. Within one step, the staff can be beside you and not blocked in behind the counter. So.
This sounds like that's working out well for you, though, and I think that's one of the secrets to owning a successful business is to think everything through.
Yeah.
And there was somebody that I was talking to earlier. They said, overplan everything, but go with the flow.
For sure.
And I was like, that's incredible. I need a tattoo of that. That's my next one. Just overplan everything, but go with the flow. And from everything that I'm hearing so far, it sounds like you guys have learned to go with the flow because of not even hardships or trials, but just because of the challenging, abnormal circumstances you had through your dating life and then your marriage and then coming back here.
For sure. That's like a great, I'm going to write that down. That's so true. Oh my, when we opened this place, we're like, oh, we're going to do like molecular gastronomy. People are going to want to sit and like drink and be like overly wowed by the theatrical productions. And then like people just want to grab their coffee and go to work. And I was so crushed the first 2 months. I was like, oh my gosh. I like created this deconstructed latte that would come to you on a plate with like this milk carton that was glass. And so you ate the latte and then you were able to drink the latte. But people don't want that, right? They need their caffeine and need to get to work. And so we're learning to create space for that to happen on a more efficient level. But yes, for sure, like overplan, but just go with the flow.
That's such a key, and even just in talking with you, I can tell that there's a passion, not necessarily, it doesn't seem like your passion is necessarily for the coffee itself, but for the experiences that the coffee provides.
Exactly.
And I think one of the best things that you can ever do is sit down and grab a drink with somebody, whether that's coffee or beer or whatever. Like sitting down and just, for some reason, I feel like it kind of humanizes other people a little bit.
Definitely.
Like you get to know somebody a little bit by how they drink their coffee. Do you drink it with cream and 2 sugars? Well, that's gross.
Yep.
But to each their own. I'm a black coffee guy. But I think that's so cool, and I love seeing a space like that show up in a town that I do have a connection to. Like Pella always has a special place in my heart, even though I didn't spend a lot of time here growing up. I have so many good memories and good friends from down here that to see something like this, to see somebody so passionate about community it just warms my heart, like a good cup of coffee does. So we talked a little bit about the extracurriculars. We talked a little bit about some of the more serious like business side of things. When it comes to the fun things, when it comes to coffee, like how do you drink your coffee? Are you a straight black coffee person all the time, or because for me, my favorite drink of all time is a voodoo chai, a dirty chai. It's a chai with a shot of espresso, and I love that. That is just two of the best things in the world come together.
Sure. Oh man, I get this question all the time, and this is the problem is it's whatever's new for me. In the morning, I love to drink just a black cup of coffee. I actually usually dilute it down a little bit, so don't tell people that, but I don't like it to bite me. I like it to be like enjoyable. And so black coffee in the morning, and then usually whatever is crazy. I love creating mocktails. So we have mocktail mule, or we have some crazy grapefruit chais right now that we're working on. So usually a mocktail would be my fancy drink, whatever that would look like. So think of a cocktail, instead of using whiskey, you put some sort of coffee extraction into it. It's very tasty.
Awesome. Well, as we kind of wrap up, I'm looking behind you and I'm seeing all these different roasts of coffee that you have, different countries. And we talked a little bit just about the impact that a culture has on the coffee itself. And I think, honestly, we're also seeing an impact that coffee is making on culture as well, talking about that community. What some, let me rephrase this. Where can people find Iris Coffee Company, and like, what do you recommend people get when they come here?
Yeah, good question. So our website is iriscoffee.co, pretty simple. When you get on there, you'll see kind of everything we have. We're getting ready again to launch some more really fun adventure stuff, and so keep posted there. But yeah, we usually have between, I don't know, 6 and 8 different offerings, anywhere from traditional to really wild enthusiasts. And so our whole subscription side of the business is set up on a traditional or enthusiast kind of platform. So 4 rotating traditional or 4 rotating enthusiasts. And so you'll get on there, you'll see 01, 02, and 03. 01 is going to be our most traditional, nice blending if you like to put cream and sugar in it, opt for one of those. And if you like to drink like my friend over here, you're going to want the 03s, which are going to be like wild, super fermented, kind of crazier, fruity ones.
Awesome.
Then the 02s are kind of just in between.
Awesome.
So
that's so unique, and I love that idea.
yeah.
And I love everything about what you guys are doing. This whole idea of creating community. We talked a little bit before the podcast started about how I started, and that's my mission summed up in one sentence.
Yeah.
Create community where you are. And I've been so fortunate to be able to talk with different people in different cities, and I love coming back to somewhere that I have a personal connection to and seeing something like this. And so this place is awesome. For those of you that aren't here, I wish you could smell the coffee. It smells awesome right now. It's killing me. I needed a jolt today, but this is awesome. I wish you absolutely nothing but success. It's something you guys are doing things so well. Yeah, this is really cool. Thanks for letting us come in and appreciate you today.
Thanks for coming.
Awesome. Thanks for being an outsider with us. You have a good rest of your day.
See ya.